Hi, Sylvain.
Hello, Claire.
So, back again for episode three, which
Well,
is
we're not.
very good. Very good to talk with you. Um, well, we had a comment from Dan in our last video. He said it was interesting that we talked about pain. That seems to be the thing that he says is what's good to discuss about this. That's something that is a lived reality for many people. So talking about pain and suffering in that way is perhaps more useful than death itself. Nobody really worries about being dead because when you're dead, you don't really worry about it. But there is a genuine concern for the human suffering side of it because that's something that we experience, and there may be things we can do or or yeah, then I don't know. Is there anything we can do to alleviate suffering, or is it a matter of accepting it? I mean, that could be a question we talk about. And he also mentioned that hearing you say death is love and reframing death in a way that is makes it part of something much bigger, not just sort of the end of something. Death can be in service of life. It's part of love. It's not the end of anything. That was a very reassuring thing to hear, to talk about, because obviously for the finite brain, for the self, the end of the body feels like the end of everything that we know to be so precious. And that can be sometimes where the fear comes in that we're losing the most precious aspects of ourselves. That's frightening. That idea that that could be possible, but what you're saying is, well, no, it's we don't really lose anything. So that was a comment we had from Dan. Um, so yeah, that's all I've got. I don't know where we go from there. If you have any thoughts, if you want to jump off anything I've just
But
shared, perhaps.
certainly, I think, we obviously very grateful from Dan to make a comment because to make a comment is not just expressing, what he felt. It's actually offering some questions or some situation which require, clarifications, for example, or which actually in a way inspire some answers. So it's always very valuable to have somebody expressing themselves. And I think that what Dan was saying, if I remember clearly, which is very, very important, is you've got to look at three things now, because you've got physical pain, then you've got suffering, and then you've got death. So there are three separate issues altogether, and it would be interesting to look into that. Because I think we're so badly educated because we should learn about death right at the beginning when we're born. Because without having accepting death as totally part of who we are, you can't live properly because you've got the wrong view and perspective on what life is. Because one wants to avoid talking about death instead of seeing it as something which gives us an opportunity. So let's go back for a moment, because when I say that, when you are actually suffering or having pain, I'm sure that actually most of us will have encountered somebody with pain or illness, and they will have encountered somebody with pain and illness and see that the pain and illness had been dealt with and the pain had stopped, the illness had what finished. That's an important process because we must be aware that actually we, human beings, at least, we are born with the means of helping ourselves. I mean, a lot of people would pray or expect some outside agency to come in to deal with us. But the reality is we are that agency. We are, look at the incredible discovery that mankind has made and how many existing illnesses have been eradicated or can be dealt with some medications. We have made that possible. So it's so important to be aware of that because it means that it's one of our fundamental needs as a human being is we want to have a life as free of pain as possible. And so we need to focus a bit more about helping ourselves in doing that by investing some of our energy into those areas which are actually helping with pain and researching illnesses. And so instead of actually, going completely a different direction and ignoring this area, fundamental need as it is of human beings, and say, it doesn't concern me, I want to go and play football instead. I mean, I'm all for playing football, but I think that the duty or the intelligent duty of any human being is to ensure they invest in the well-being of life and in the success of life, and that includes dealing with illnesses. The more we do that, the less pain there will be in the world. So that's one thing. And then, of course, you do have suffering. And suffering is very different than actually physical pain because suffering is a spiritual pain. It is actually the lack of hope, the lack of love for life because we are now frightened of life or we dislike life because we accuse life of giving us pain. So that becomes suffering because we can't answer that question. We can't change life. We don't know what life is. And so there again, I think that it's an opportunity to look a bit deeper. If one is actually looking at the fact that, yes, we have pain, but also, yes, I know now, I've seen the fact that we can do something about pain and find something of value, not only for me, but for the whole community. Because if I can actually deal with one particular type of illness or pain, then that's become available to everyone in the universe. So this is a very different type of investment. What's about me is valuable for everybody else. Now, when you see that, even though one might be in pain, the suffering changes completely because you no longer hate life, you no longer distrust life. You actually love it more because you want to find out more about how to help it. So that's the way of dealing with suffering that I've applied to myself. And then if you go back to death, well, death actually, to a large extent, is the freedom of that pain, that suffering. So it's not like it's something that to be frightful of, because in fact, none of the things we've experienced in our lives, are worse than actually being the letting go. It's all about letting go and be in total trust and in tune with life. And let's not worry about it. When it comes, we'll find out soon enough what it's like. And as I say, it's another area which is unknown to us. And I personally am very curious about it. Either I'll find some more, which I think it might be the case, or I won't know, which actually is the same thing anyway. So it's just a harmonious environment if one looks at it from a particular point of view.
I think that was a very well to tie it all together. You're first of all saying how when there is you're born and then there's a sense of death, and that is a really positive, really harmonious way to live because you're not fearful of it. There's not that sense of needing to live in a particular way, to do things in a certain way, which I think is what so many of us do. There's an avoidance of death because there's perhaps, you say that you see people suffering and in pain and they manage to overcome it. What also happens is we see people suffering and in pain and they die. So death can also be associated with that suffering and with that pain. So I think if you haven't got that fear in you, then you can go through life in a way that is not trying to avoid that. So you're not constantly thinking, well, how can I become a person? How can I build my identity? How can I earn a certain amount of money, have a certain level of success in order for me to feel almost invincible? I often wonder, is this what people are chasing when they chase so much material wealth? It's a sort of sense of not dying. So yes, I think what you say is very, very true. And living without fear of death is a way to live very well. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that might be part of the fear of death? Is this sort of association with pain and suffering, or is it a sort of loss of an identity,
Well, I
perhaps?
mean, it's very interesting, really, to look at the fact that the way society is today. I mean, so obviously we are living at the front end of humanity. It started a long time ago. So where we are living today is the result of all those thousands, hundreds, thousands of years which have happened before us. But if you consider what we do today, the way we live, isn't it sort of quite clear that actually we are in a hurry? We're in a hurry because this society anyway has determined that actually you've got to have a youth, and then you've got to be happy kids and then play around. But then you've got to actually go to school because you've got to learn quickly, to learn to do certain things, and you've got to go to university, and you've got to have a job, and then you've got to have a job, you've got to earn money, and you've got to earn money, you've got to buy a house, you've got to have family, you do have to go on holiday, you've got to have a car, you've got television. I mean, because if you don't do it then, when will you do it? Because you know you only have so much time, you're going to die, and that's terrible end to actually a life. So we've got to try to pack in as much as pleasure as we can in that short period of time we've got between being born and dying. And so, and certainly you don't want to get old because I mean, this is actually going to death. Can people see, that the death is always there, whether we want to ignore it or not? It's actually what created that impatience, that suffering in effect, that wanting of things constantly, because we only see that little period of time we might have. And yet we don't really understand or want to know about death, but it's there all the time pushing us. But it's the idea which is pushing us, not the fact that it exists. And what actually we should be interested in is life, which is actually because that's what death is as well. If you look into life, death is just part of it. It's not something different. It's not an end to anything. It is only an end to your material possession. Sorry to talk that. I mean, it's as simple as that because you've been wanting those things so much because they were the only thing you can do to have pleasure in that limited amount of time you're on this planet, for example. There has been given so much value, and yet you've got to surrender it all at the end.
Mm. I mean, I hear what you're saying. You're saying that actually there is it's the material pleasure, the things that we have, that's sort of what's driving people to want more and more and more and more. They want to cram in as many experiences, as many joys. They want to get as much out of life as they possibly can. Um, but then there is also the reality that we are sort of limited. There is an expiration date. So you can't say, well, it's okay, you've got as long as you want, you can go on forever, because the fact of the matter is that bodies do age, people do lose the ability to go on long trips, for example, to go traveling. There are things that you might want to experience at a certain age and a certain capacity. So to sort of say, well, it doesn't matter because time is doesn't really exist, can also potentially deny the very real physical human side of it.
Well, I mean, that's one way of seeing it. I think that one can enjoy being alive far more when one has got time to enjoy being alive far more. Let's not forget that actually most of the activities that we have as humanity are actually the ones we've learned to have. It's not something we've got to make a choice of. We have sold holidays, we have sold destinations, we have sold objects. We are sold, what we look like. Look, I mean, you've got fashion, you've got all those things which are all there to marketing some products that it makes people feel they have to have that. It actually doesn't mean that actually if you don't have it, there is no life to be lived. We've transformed that life into a constant suffering because as soon as you're born, you're told what you should have. Nobody is actually saying, look what we've got. Look at all what you've got, and the visible and the invisible. And so enjoy that. yes, you've got eyes, but I mean, look, it allows you to see what's outside. Look at the trees, look at the birds. It sounds silly now because people feel, oh, well, who cares about that? But we can see, we can hear, we can talk, we can feel. I mean, and all that we haven't bought that from anywhere. We're born with it already, and we haven't got time to actually explore and find out really who we are and what we've got already. We're immediate, so we haven't got what we need, that we've got to buy it, that we've got to organize it. So life is from birth almost to death is suffering because we never have everything we should have. And so, you're pursuing constantly happiness. That's the Americans, isn't it? The pursuit of happiness. That's what really people we are pursuing. We never get there. As soon as you reach one post, you've got to go to the next one. And then look at the decadence to come to a certain age, and then you start getting old. And this is everybody sees getting old as the end of everything. It's a slope, all the way to death, which is a terrible time in your life because every day you're getting older. If you look at it that way, you're not getting wiser. You're not getting more closer to life. You're not gaining wisdom. You're not, understanding things better. No, you are losing, 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 not gaining, gaining, gaining. So the way we look at life is actually can change completely the way we live and really give us suffering and non-stop suffering.
So how do people get out of that? If you say that, well, all of life is suffering, you're born into this environment which is unavoidable, essentially. You're told who you are and you're marketed to and you're sold to. How does one avoid being in that and really seeing life for what life is?
Well, I mean, it's not a question of avoiding it. I think you can actually happily face the fact because you need to look at it and you look the way it works. That actually, you are looking at particular object to buy. You know that society is organized to actually make that happen. So you just face it and look at it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the way it is. But we've got so much involvement in that part that it would be interesting to also see, which is also part of the reality, just life as it is. And what there is in just life. Forget no shops to go shopping, just what there is in front of you already. We are capable of by ourselves. I mean, are you not amazed that you can see? We take it so much for granted. Are we not amazed that we can breathe? We haven't learned that from anywhere. That we can smell flowers, that we can actually enjoy taste, that we can listen to music, that we can enjoy the wind on our skin, we feel the water, the warmth, the cold. I mean, we are amazing natural machines. And that is like going in a shop, and get all the toys you want and then appreciate them all for what they are. It's that lack of appreciation which makes us choose to go and buy objects which will be made by somebody else, telling us that will make us happy. Because there again, happiness is something we're born with. I mean, how would we know to be happy if we didn't know we're happy already? I mean, it's not something you can buy anywhere. It's in you already. So we've got all those amazing assets which have been left behind for some reason or used, sold back to us in a way through, objects which actually will not survive us either.
I think that's a real pity that we're sold back what we already have. And in a way, talking about it, talking about happiness and joy and all these things, this is already inherent. So how to avoid that trap, how to not kind of commercialize even conversation, how do people see that there's nothing that they need to do or hear or seek? That's just more of the same mechanism, the sort of seeking.
Well, I don't know if I would call it seeking. I mean, I don't know how to, what's the word to do it, but it's basically seeing it the way it is. I mean, I know it sounds like, everybody can say that, but effectively, we fail to see life and meeting life as it is. We actually are taught a life. That's the one we know. It's the one made by society that we're given the rules of, and then we follow the rules or not. If we don't follow them, it's still the influence of society as it is anyway. So we've got it's like a game, and we're given the rules of a game. Failing, the fact that actually behind the game there's a real a reality which is worth knowing as well. Which is actually where we come from. We are really live in, whether we like it or not. We might hide it, but we are living in a real life of which we know very little, if anything at all.
Yes, well, that's what we're exploring here. It's just, I mean, how do you explore that? You say
Well,
how to live in the real world.
Well, I mean, as I say, start actually just looking at yourself. I mean, but not as you with identity, because that's a bit silly. It's looking what sort of machine we are, what sort of being we are. I said, be aware of you've got eyes and you see things. Start inquiring how is that possible in first place? And what how it happens, how many colors we see. If you say, for example, green, well, there are billions of shades of greens you can see. Same with the sound. And I guess this is actually just realizing what real life, fundamental life, is all about. That all those things are given to us. We haven't invented any of that. None of it is man-made or woman-made for that matter. It's just actually we are women and men. We part of a process which is nothing to do with us. We create life, ongoing life, and that we are part of a process. It's not our decision. Look at the baby, and when they grow, we might pretend that we teach them how to walk and talk and whatever. We don't. Life does. When a baby is ready to walk, they will walk, whether we've taught them anything or not. When they want to talk, they can make a sound. They will decide when they do that. We can't make babies. I mean, some people try very hard, but nature takes care of all this. It's extraordinary world we live in. I know that because my youngest daughter, Sophie, as a man, I was a one-parent family for a while, and therefore I looked at that little being and I saw, life taking care of most of it. As long as you're kind and you provide the food and the warmth, you make sure that they're okay. I mean, life is very happy to actually guide those little beings into growing in whatever they're going to be. It's a wonderful thing. It's like looking at a flower growing. We can observe just the simple things, how it works, and then you discover that thing we call life.
Yeah, and you said in one of the episodes, once you can see the way birth works and life works, there's no need to fear death because it just takes care of itself. You trust the process. The death
We
is
are not
part
in
of the
charge.
process of life.
We are not in charge, Claire. That's the beauty of it. So people who want to control, I've got a hard one here because there is no way one can control life. We are part of it. We have to follow life rules which we didn't decide upon. Now, that's where it all comes to. Are you going to trust life or are you going to distrust life? And I think that is a big step to take. Because I mean, if you trust life, well, you go along and you see and you find ways, you follow the major route and you're okay. If you distrust life all the time, you're going to have to fight against it. Everything you want to change the weather, you want to change, the way the current goes, yeah, and you can't. And or you want to affect the way things grow, and you damage the soil, and you want to actually have more people to produce more things, and then you create pollution, and you increase it, and then you then damage the water which we need to have pure water for ourselves. So this is really crucial to have a proper look at all those things and see how much, if we've got influence, is in actually we can really be in charge when we stop wanting to control, and then we accept our position to be issue from life, and then we go along with life is.
I think people don't have such a problem trusting life. You know, we're very trusting of nature, of plants, of animals. It's humans really that seem to be the creating the pollution, creating all the challenges. It can be very hard to trust that sometimes. I wonder if you could share a few thoughts on that, perhaps.
But of course, I mean, you're so right. We can't trust ourselves, can we? because we are so much needy that we are prepared. I mean, it's really amazing what you actually talk about at the moment. You can hear everywhere about the climate change, for example. Well, it's a strange thing. If you see, you're on the road and you see a bus coming at full speed on you, are you going to stay there? Well, hopefully if you're seeing the bus, you're going to move out of the way as quickly as you can. Now, if you see, when you see the weather changing and what it creates and the pollution it creates at the same time, why do we carry on doing what causes it? I mean, anybody sensible will say, "Hey, stop here. Okay, we were not aware, but we've done something. This is not working. We have to stop and review the situation." But we're stopping now. We are not going to say, "Oh well, we'll find something. Don't worry about it. Let's carry on regardless." That's what actually is a killer. The damage that we're causing is increased all the time by our total lack of proper reaction.
Well, it
And
seems contradictory because you're saying, well, if you trust everything, but then you don't trust pollution, you don't trust the destruction of the planet. That's something that we don't trust.
well, I mean, there is no contradiction. I'll go back at the beginning, like with pain. I'm not saying pain doesn't exist. I say we have the means of dealing with it. And if we focus on that, we'll find ways of dealing with it. And if everybody participate, we'll find it even quicker. It's the same about pollution. It's like an illness. Exactly the same. And don't you worry. The planet hurts as we do, and it suffers as we do because we pass that on to life as well. On the planet, there's no doubt about that. Life is everywhere, so it's the same principle. We are lost souls. We have to go back to our beginning to look to be really the participant of life, to be accept to have been created, and then to accept that the rules, the fundamental rules of life, are not ours. We have to actually follow them. So because we've forgotten all that, there's no hesitation to see that's why people go the way they do. They are not aware that there actually are proper rules to protect life. That's the only sensible thing to do as a human being. You don't want to destroy what keeps you going. So so it's a question of awareness, really. And but people are so sold onto the fact that we know everything and we've got all the powers to do everything. We're in charge. That we always think that another human being in charge, a president or whatever, is going to find a solution for us. So we just follow without thinking, without considering, or without feeling anything. So yeah, there is no contradiction. We are actually, funny enough, that's the way life is a reward as well. We have a choice. I mean, I'm not the first one to say that actually, free will is there. We have an opportunity to do the right thing, and we've got an opportunity to do the wrong thing. And that is what we can be in control of. That can be our decision. That is our input in life,
Also,
which
can we trust ourselves then? That's the question.
well, we can certainly trust the fact that we've got the means to make the right decision, but that's part of actually, education and all the rest of it. A lot of the spiritual pollution, I'll call it that way, has already damaged quite a lot of brains and people on the planet, and it's passed on to the next generation. So it requires for some people to actually start. I mean, I'm sure they are anyway, but to actually go back. It's not our problem. It's not my problem. I don't know the solutions. I'm not going to make miracles for people. It's a question of actually being reasonable and look at it again, and on an individual level. That's all. That's all we can do. And
Yes.
but I trust myself. That's what I trust. Is that actually given the right impetus, working in the right direction, life can recover.
Mm, mm. Yeah, which is wonderful. And I think we see evidence of that when we do work together, when there's positive intent, things can shift, things can improve. We can see progress. So I think
You're
it can
so
be easy
right.
to take
Yeah.
a negative view to all this, but we've all had experiences of things going really pear-shaped and then them going back in a positive way as well. And that's worth remembering. That's worth holding on to that things.
Yes.
things are okay, things can be okay,
And
we can get
especially
better.
when you've got people who are genuinely, working in the right way.
Yeah.
But we understand I mean, we tend to be selfish, of course. We all want things for ourselves, but we are not selfish enough because when actually you put selfishness to the extreme, that I want to be so secure and so well, that I realize when I'm like that, I'm totally selfish. That the only way I'm going to get that is if I'm like that with other people. I mean, this is also a simple rule which anybody can observe. So really, nobody wants to be kind for being kind. Nobody wants to be nice because it's not. You do it because it's your best interest.
Well, I mean, we're the same as the environment. We are each other. So we're
Yes,
kind to each other. We're kind to ourselves. We're kind to ourselves. We're kind to each other.
yes.
Why would we not? When we recognize that we're all the same, we're all sharing the
Yes.
planet. Why is there not that natural kindness that we extend?
Because
It
we're blind to
doesn't
it.
make sense. But it
We're
feels
blind.
still self-destructive.
Yeah. But some people don't see it, unfortunately. But it is absolutely the case, yes. Because anybody you meet, in on planet, wherever in the world, is you. I mean, I think it's Krishnamurti, I think, who wrote something like, "I am the world and the world is me," or something like that, or "You are the world and the world is you." And I've never really quite understood, or vaguely, but as suddenly it struck me, that's exactly what he says. That actually anything, any tree, flower, human being, animal, cat, dog, snake, whatever you meet, is you. And therefore, how do you treat you is the key.
Mm. Yeah.
What do you want to do to happen to yourself? That's your choice.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Anything else you want to share, or should we leave it there for today?
Well, I think that's enough for today. That's great. As you say, talking is always wonderful because you think like you make a little step somewhere, and it's very well intended, and that's great stuff. So
Well,
I'm
it's
grateful
never
to you.
rehearsed, which I know we never know what's going to come up, and you have to wonder if that's just what this is, just exploring the unknown and just seeing what comes out of that. There may be something that is interesting from our
That's
conversations.
being with life. That's being together with life for me. Because as I say, you don't know what's going to come out of your mouth. So I think is being collaborative with life itself.
Well, thank you. I'll see you for the next one.
Yes, thank you very much, Claire. Bye bye.
Bye bye.